AI is everywhere and it's super powerful. And since the Diablo 4 Necromancer concept is kind of meh, I wanted to see if ChatGPT, if AI, can make me a better one. And the results are shocking and very damning for Blizzard. Let me show you the results. Step 1 was telling AI what exactly is going on. You're a class creator for Diablo 4 Necro. Your knowledge is the past Diablo titles including 2, 3, and Diablo Immortal. And the class concept is based on 4 themes. You want to do blood, darkness, bone, and summoning minions to aid you. Also, the Necromancer is using essence to cast spells, and this essence is generated with basic skills. The basic skills don't cost essence themselves, so just like it works in Diablo 4. And now create 4 basic skills based on the themes previously determined. For the blood theme, Sanguine Surge. Channel the power of blood, creating a crimson burst that damages enemies in a small area around you, siphoning their life essence to replenish your own. Deals moderate damage to nearby enemies and heals you for a percentage of the damage dealt. Sounds like Blood Surge, but it's now a basic skill. Also, wait, we're gonna have it make an advanced version and 2 variations, just as we have in Diablo 4 right now. For darkness, it's Umbral Grasp. Manifest shadowy tendrils that ensnare a single target momentarily, immobilizing them while dealing darkness damage over time. Holds the target in place, dealing continuous dark damage for a short duration. And while it deals damage, that also creates essence. For bone, Ossified Barrage. And this Umbral Grasp has such an insane advanced skill. Bone-wise, we have Ossified Barrage. Unleash a flurry of bone shards in a cone-shaped area in front of you, like channeling like a bone shotgun, piercing through enemies and causing bleeding damage over time. Inflicts damage to all enemies in the cone-shaped area, applying a bleeding effect that causes additional damage over a few seconds. And this one creates essence the more enemies are hit and the more continuous damage you're dealing. Then there's also a summoning basic skill. Yes, we want a summoning basic skill. Summon a skeleton minion to aid you in battle. The minion will attack nearby enemies, drawing their attention away from you. So like a taunter. And the interesting part is, since I didn't understand how the minion skill is supposed to make essence, I asked it, how do these abilities create essence? Summoning the skeletal minion itself doesn't directly generate essence. However, as the minion deals damage or takes damage on behalf of the Necromancer, a portion of the damage dealt or received by the minion is converted into essence for the Necro. That sounds quite fun, especially when it goes out there and actively taunts enemies and makes sure that they don't attack you. Now off to the important part. Every basic skill now needs an advanced version, so 1 further skill point, and then it should branch out in 2 variations to give you a little bit different playstyle options. For the Sanguine Surge, that was essentially creating a blood surge. Enhances Sanguine Surge, causing it to create a blood pool at the impact side. This pool continuously damages enemies and provides a substantial essence return when enemies perish within its confines, which then goes also in the 2 branching options. Vampiric Veins. Improve the life-stealing aspect of Sanguine Surge, significantly increasing the amount of health restored with each enemy hit. Alters Sanguine Surge to also grant a temporary protective shield to the Necro, absorbing incoming damage based on the damage dealt by the skill. Make a pool of blood, have it soak life, have it heal you, but now it actually makes a protective shield, giving Necro finally a defensive ability that's a basic skill. Sounds quite OP, to be honest. Umbral Grasp, advanced version, Eclipse Embrace. Elevates Umbral Grasp, empowering it to spread its dark influence to nearby enemies, chaining the ensnaring effect to multiple targets. From the ground, damage over time, boop, 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 hit multiple, soak them all empty, at the same time generates essence for you for your core skills. With the 2 advanced versions being crazy. Converts Umbral Grasp into an explosive release upon expiration, causing the ensnared enemies to explode in dark bursts, damaging nearby foes. I like it. Then, Nightfall Mastery. Increases the duration of Umbral Grasp effect and enhances the damage over time aspect, intensifying its dark damage potential and therefore also the essence return. Now hold up, our bone shotgun, Ossified Barrage, is now Razor Bone and Tempest. Transforms Ossified Barrage into a cyclone of razor-sharp bones, allowing the projectiles to seek out and pierce multiple targets within a larger area. As I understand, instead of now shooting a barrage shotgun in front of you, you're going to create a cyclone that goes around like the cyclone from Druids. Fractured Dominance enhances the bleeding effect of Ossified Barrage, causing enemies affected by the skill to take increased damage from all sources for duration. And now the crazy one, Infernal Boneforge. Grants a chance for Ossified Barrage to summon skeletal guardians upon enemy kills, which aid the Necromancer in combat for a limited time. 10 out of 10. I would take that skill. It does sound a bit broken though for a basic skill. We're trying to make something new and exciting here. Now Minion Rouse gets made into Undying Legion, elevates Minion Rouse to summon an elite skeletal lieutenant with enhanced abilities and increased durability, serving as a formidable ally in battle. Now that can also be Death Pact, allows the Necro to sacrifice their minion, so straight up sacrifice it, converting it into a powerful burst of essence for immediate use in spells or abilities. Summon, sacrifice, get more essence, make more core skills. But also enables the Necro to temporarily control a second summoned minion, simultaneously dividing their attention between multiple targets. So I can summon 2 very strong lieutenants instead of just 1, going at targets and being very aggressive and taunting as it seems. Now this sounds better than every single basic skill we have right now, maybe a little bit broken as well. But let's see what it gets for core skills, because they are... I want these right now. The parameters stay the same. 4 core skills, 4 themes, 1 advanced version, and also 2 variations. For blood, Essence Vortex. Unleash a swirling vortex of concentrated essence, drawing in enemies and causing continuous blood damage over time. This skill consumes stored essence to intensify its effects. This does sound like a channeled effect to me. So standing there and being like, while you're channeling the vortex, like continuously pulling enemies in. Hemorrhage Nova upgrades Essence Vortex into a devastating explosion upon expiration, dealing massive area damage and causing enemies to bleed over an extended duration. It's kind of fun if it's actually a channeled skill. You go and then really cool. With the branching options, Sanguine Reservoir enhances Essence Vortex to absorb a percentage of the damage dealt as replenishing the Necromancer's vitality, or Crimson Reckoning increases the critical hit chance and critical damage multiplier of Essence Vortex, making critical strikes more potent. Yes, give it to me. Darkness theme. Umbral Eclipse. Channel the essence into a dark shroud, enveloping the Necromancer and nearby allies in a protective barrier that absorbs incoming damage. That's horrible for a core skill. So I did tell AI to rewrite this one. But let's first now go over to Merowyn Cataclysm for Bone. Unleash a devastating seismic wave, like Blood Wave, of bone energy, rupturing the ground and causing piercing damage in a wide area. Consume stored essence to heighten its destructive force. He has kind of like a little bit of a problem to understand the essence to cost ratio there. Eternal Osteosis as the advanced version elevates Merowyn Cataclysm, leaving behind a lingering bone field that slows and damages enemies who traverse it for an extended duration. Now that can go into Ruthless Shatter, increases the critical strike chance of Merowyn Cataclysm, making critical hits trigger a secondary explosion for additional damage. Yes, please. Bone Spear was yesterday. Endless Exhumation. Allows Merowyn Cataclysm to summon temporary skeletal warriors from the ruptured ground to fight alongside the Necromancer for a brief period. So the bone skills are also summoning skills if you wish them to be, which I completely missed that like any other skill can do some kind of summoning, like blood doing some blood specters or whatsoever. Now the summoning skill is called the Essence Conduit. Channel stored essence to empower all summoned minions, enhancing their damage, attack speed, and resilience for a duration. So you're actually a summon supporter Necro, but wait for it. Ethereal Fusion elevates Essence Conduit, allowing the Necro to temporarily merge with their summoned minions, sharing health and bolstering their combined strength and abilities. This one is a bit confusing because the branching options do not really match up, but I think I understand what it wants for me. So Mystic Empowerment grants a chance for minions affected by Essence Conduit to unleash empowered attacks that deal additional elemental damage. So what's happening is that if I enhance it, then my life and my strength and abilities are being enhanced up in the minions. It sounded like they're merging with me. But what's happening, I'm merging with them, kind of. You know, I'm just pushing out my strength to make them more powerful. And then also Phantom Horde enables Essence Conduit to summon spectral apparition of a fallen enemy temporarily to fight alongside the minions, bolstering their forces momentarily. That means I'm empowering my minions, and then I summon even more minions from dead corpses around, like the revival ability from Diablo 3, as he's been taking knowledge from the previous games. Now I wanted him to rewrite the darkness theme because I wanted it to be an offensive core skill. Now it's Shadowbound Cataclysm. Unleash a concentrated wave of shadow, yes, it's a wave again, that surges forward, piercing through enemies in its path and causing significant dark damage. Consume stored essence to amplify its destructive potential. Sounds like the bone skill, but wait for it. Enhances Shadowbound Cataclysm, causing it to rupture the ground upon impact, creating lingering shadow rifts that periodically damage enemies in the area. So like Blight pretty much. Which then leads to Umbral Surge, grants a chance for Shadowbound Cataclysm to briefly stun or immobilize affected enemies, which is actually exactly like Blight. which is exactly like Blight, to be honest. And then Eclipse Empowerment increases the Necromancer spell damage for a duration after casting Shadow Blight Cataclysm, empowering subsequent offensive abilities. So he kind of made Blight. That's the 15% shadow damage plus, and that is the immobilizing percentual chance. And it's not now like an orbit throws out, it's a wave of shadow that it throws out. But Voidquake honestly sounds pretty epic, to be honest. So far, so good. Pretty amazing abilities, and I would kind of like to play this Summoner into Bones. But tier 3 spells, we wanted them to be defensive and Corpse Explosion, because Corpse Explosion is under the tier 3 spells, but then it's Blood Mist and Bone Prison. So I asked it to give me supportive spells that keep you alive. In the 4 themes again. Vitality Siphon. Channel Essence to create a pulsating aura that gradually restores health to the Necro and nearby allies within its radius. I hope it's not meant as a real channel ability, it's more like as a, and then create an aura for time X, which then leads to Hemocraft Beacon. Elevates Vitality Siphon, causing it to periodically release bursts of essence energy that heal allies and provide a temporary shield. Then, with a Lifeblood Surge, increases the effectiveness of Vitality Siphon, boosting the rate of health restoration, providing a temporary bonus to maximum health after activation. That's very good for the 2 skeletons we're already having if we go for skeletal minions, right? And that heals me and the minions periodically and keeps them alive all the time. But Blood Pact allows Siphon to convert a portion of the healed health into damage absorbing shield for the Necro. We're finally getting something to keep the Necro alive. That's fantastic. Darkness theme. Umbral Sanctuary envelops the area in a protective shroud of darkness, granting allies within its range increased evasion and reduced incoming damage. I guess allies also includes your summons if you want to, which then goes into Shadow Veil. Enhances Umbral Sanctuary intermittently, granting affected allies temporary invisibility and immunity to status effect. I'm not sure about the invisibility part, but hey, immunity to status effect sounds pretty good. Unstoppable Necro. Which then brings us to Darkened Refuge. Extends the duration and increases the potency of Umbral Sanctuary's protective effects, or Nightfall Resilience. Converts a percentage of the damage mitigated by Umbral Sanctuary into stored essence for the Necro. Hello? So we make the Shadow Veil over me and the minions, and then they actually restore essence, so I can cast more Umbral Shadow Waves to damage our opponents. Thumbs up, love it. The Bone theme gives you Ossuous Fortification, and this is probably my favorite ability existing. Manipulate essence to fortify allies with skeletal armor, providing increased armor and resistance against incoming physical and elemental damage, like a bone shield for you and your allies. Advanced version, Marrow Ward. Elevates Osseous Fortification, periodically releasing bone fragments that damage and weaken enemies within the fortified area. Okay. Enduring Bones. Extends the duration and boosts the resistance it provides against specific types of damage. Plus, Bonebound Aegis instead grants affected allies a chance to reflect a portion of incoming damage back to the attacker while Osseous Fortification is active. It does fit perfectly in the theme, making thorny skeletons also, if you want to, that then throw back damage on top of that while they're stunning and pulling things together, or you with your Umbral Vortex anyways pulling things together. Now for summoning, Ethereal Resurgence. And for some reason, that one is kind of the same. It's Harness Essence to bolster the resilience and effectiveness of summoned minions. So that's kind of like the core skill, making your minions just have more health, damage output, and duration, making them more deadly. Plus, you can now merge again with your minions and sharing health, strengthening their combined abilities. So he kind of made the double here. We would have him probably rewrite this, but then again, Minions Might empower summoned minions affected by Ethereal Resurgence with increased critical hit chance and damage, and also periodically summon spectral reinforcements to aid the minions, bolstering their forces for a brief duration. Now, it does sound similar, but then again, if I can get another spectral summon, plus even more spectral summons, plus everything gets double stronger, it is the same, yes. It makes everything super strong. Definitely have to rewrite this one. Lastly, I told you we needed Corpse Explosion because I really wanted Corpse Explosion on top of the defensive skills. So detonate a nearby corpse, causing it to explode and deal significant damage, right? But then we have Cadaver's Detonation. It changes everything. Enhances Corpse Explosion, increasing its damage and expanding its area of effect. Additionally, it may leave behind residual toxic clouds. Okay, that's cool. There's a chance for toxic clouds. It's not guaranteed. But Necrotic Chain Reaction grants a chance for Corpse Explosion to trigger a secondary explosion on nearby corpses within its blast radius. No unique needed or aspect. Ethereal Rebirth Corpse Explosion has a chance to temporarily summon an ethereal minion from the detonated corpse to fight alongside the Necro. You blow up someone's booty, and then he turns into a ghost fighting for you. 10 out of 10. I'm all here for it. Now, we all know Diablo curses are kind of lackluster right now. Diablo 2 had many, Diablo 3 had even more. Now we have Iron Maiden and Decrepify. But I wanted 4 curses that are theme specific, working for each shebang that we're doing. These curses are supposed to support 1 theme each, also give them the advanced version and 2 skill variations. Hemorrhagic Affliction. Cast a curse that afflicts enemies, causing their attacks to bleed and reducing their healing received for a duration. So that's like a Iron Maiden. Okay. Vital Drain Curse. That's the advanced version. Elevates Hemorrhagic Affliction, siphoning a percentage of the enemy's health with each attack affected by the curse and transferring it to the Necro. Sanguine Weakening. Increase the damage of bleeding effects caused by Hemorrhagic Affliction and reduces the affected enemy's damage output while the curse is active. Damage reduction. Nice. Bloodbane Hex. Infuse Hemorrhagic Affliction with a chance to trigger an explosion of blood essence upon an afflicted enemy's death, damaging nearby foes. That sounds weak compared to Sanguine Weakening, to be honest. Now for Darkness. Eclipsing Malady. Cast a curse that envelops enemies in darkness, reducing their accuracy, evasion, and causing periodic dark damage over time. Listen, that's OP. Nocturnal Hex. Elevates Eclipsing Malady, granting the Necro and affected allies increased critical hit chance against cursed enemies. Oh, okay, cool. Which then goes into Shadowbound Enervation. Extends the duration and potency of accuracy and evasion reduction caused by Malady. Or Abyssal Affliction. Causes enemies afflicted by Eclipsing Malady to take increased damage from dark-themed attacks and abilities. Harsh, just making Shadow even more broken. Bone Theme, Osteocorruption. Cast a curse that weakens enemies' defenses, reducing their armor and resistance against physical and elemental damage for a duration. Which brings us to the Bone Crusher Hex, causing affected enemies to take increased damage from bone-themed abilities and attacks, plus Fractured Resistance enhances the reduction of enemy resistance caused by Osteocorruption, or Ruptured Defense causes enemies affected by Osteocorruption to periodically suffer a brief vulnerability window where they take significantly increased damage. That's our source of vulnerable now. Finally, with a summoning theme, Spectral Bindings. Cast a curse that restricts enemies' movement, slowing their actions and reducing their attack speed for a duration. Kind of like Decrepify, which leads to Ethereal Tether. Jesus. Elevates Spectral Bindings, occasionally summoning spectral chains that briefly immobilize a cursed enemy, rendering them vulnerable. Source of vulnerable. Conjured Restraints. Increase the potency of the movement speed reduction and attack speed debuff inflicted by Spectral Bindings. And Spiritual Leech. Grants the Necro a chance to regain essence when enemies affected by Spectral Bindings are damaged by summoned minions, which then allows us to cast the Summoning Empowerment spells, to then empower our summons more, to then Spiritual Leech them, to then... Ooh, that gameplay loop is feeding in itself, so we're just continuously like empowering the minions or throwing in another core skill, but we have the chance to empower them, leech them, core skill, and so on in a loop. Which finally brings us to mastery skills, and right now we have Corpse Tendrils and Bone Spirit there, plus a bunch of passives. But all the other classes have like 4, 5, or whatever amount of abilities, so we couldn't have that. We wanted to have the 4 abilities with the 4 themes, and the mastery skills are meant to control the battlefields with area of effect spells. Crimson Tempest, or Blood. Unleash a swirling storm of blood essence, dealing continuous damage to enemies within a sizable area, which goes to Hemorrhage Whirlwind. Elevates Crimson Tempest, causing affected enemies to bleed and suffer increased damage while inside the storm. Then Sanguine Torrent. Increases the size and duration of the Crimson Tempest storm, covering a larger area and persisting for an extended period. Thank you. Enables Crimson Tempest to explode upon expiration, releasing a wave of blood essence that damages and slows enemies caught within its blast radius. Now, just longer Sanguine Torrent and then just Sanguine Torrent the shit out of them. Shadow Veil Eclipse. Cast an encompassing darkness that blinds enemies within its range, reducing their accuracy and causing periodic dark damage. So with the curse and this, they essentially can't hit you anymore. Which brings us to the Umbral Eclipse Burst. It elevates Shadow Veil Eclipse, periodically releasing pulses of dark energy that stun or disorient enemies within the area. Darkness damage and stunning consistently, that leads to super stagger on bosses. Even Shroud is one of the variations, increasing the potency of the darkness effect, reducing enemy accuracy, increasing the damage they take while inside the area of Shadow Veil Eclipse, or cause Shadow Veil Eclipse to erupt up an expiration, releasing a surge of shadow energy that damages and slows enemies in the vicinity. That's a theme it kind of takes of just exploding everything with a Nightfall Cascade. But then, Bone Shard Barrage. Unleash a relentless barrage of bone shards that pierce through enemies in a wide arc, causing bleeding damage over time. So, like the basic skill, kind of going Bone Jesus, having just like a barrage of bones in front of you, which then leads to Skeletal Storm. Now you'd think that's kind of Bone Storm, but no. Elevates Bone Shard Barrage, causing bone shards to rain down continuously in the affected area, inflicting damage over a large duration. Yes, we're talking kind of like about a Bone Blizzard. But Razorwind Rampage increase the speed and number of bone shards launched by Bone Shard Barrage, okay? Which then leads to Fragmented Fury. Allows Bone Shard Barrage to spawn additional bone fragments up and hitting enemies, which seek out nearby foes to cause additional damage. Bone Blizzard into bone shards that seek out. Ooh, give it to me. Screw sorcerers. I am the bone monster now. Now, Necrotic Summoning Circle is the summoning theme. Create a necrotic circle that periodically summons spectral minions to fight for the necromancer and target enemies within its radius. That leads to ethereal convergence. Elevate necrotic summoning circle, allowing summoned minions to possess enhanced abilities and persist for a longer duration. I mean, enhanced abilities, probably they now poison, blight, freeze, something. Spectral Onslaught. Increases the frequency of minion summoning by the necrotic summoning circle, overwhelming enemies within larger spectral force. Or Ethereal Amplification. Empowers the spectral minions summoned by necrotic summoning circle, granting them increased damage and resistance to the duration of the spell. I mean, like, just putting down a circle somewhere where just an army of minions just pops out of, which allows you to always engage with this. So there's minions in front of you, you engage with then your summoning circle, or you put that on top of a boss so that the boss is kind of like swarmed by minions and you are not the main target of attention anymore, which is the whole goal of a summoner necromancer, to shift the attention away from you. Finally, we reached ultimate skills. We have Bone Storm, Army of the Dead, and Bloodwave right now, which are all, I mean, they're fun, but they're kind of very generic. And then lastly, we also have the 4 key passives. For ultimate skills, Diablo says they are meant to devastate your enemies and shift the tides of battle. Let's see. Rite of Blood Reckoning. Unleash a torrential flood of blood essence, engulfing the battlefield and dealing immense damage over time to all enemies within a massive area. Yo, brain? Elevates Rite of Blood Reckoning, causing affected enemies to continuously bleed and suffer increasing damage while they remain with the blood torrent. So you kind of have like a gigantic blood aura around you. Sanguine Resurgence. Grants the Necro a temporary boost in damage, attack speed, and health regeneration proportional to the damage dealt by Blood Reckoning. That's kind of cool, making you into an unstoppable calamity. Bloodstorm Annihilation enables Rite of Blood Reckoning to erupt up an expiration, releasing a shockwave that causes additional damage and stuns nearby enemies. Now, I'm going for Sanguine Resurgence, making me like a super OP killer vampire dude. Now, the darkness skill is Umbral Eclipse Annihilation. Yes, pretty grand. Cast a massive darkened eclipse that engulfs the battlefield, shrouding enemies in utter darkness and dealing devastating dark damage. I kind of imagine this as a black hole, because there's Nocturnal Oblivion. Elevates Umbral Eclipse Annihilation, creating a lingering field of darkness that persists after the initial cast, causing continuous damage and debuffing enemies who enter it. So, black hole with a pool of poop below it. Now, Shadowbane Detonation increases the potency of the Umbral Eclipse Annihilation, causing affected enemies to take increased damage from all sources for the duration. Or even Cataclysm. The Annihilation implodes up an expiration, collapsing the darkness into a massive burst that deals additional damage and blinds nearby enemies. I want a huge stagger that instantly just staggers the boss. Bone theme is Necrotic Bone Storm. Hey, Bone Storm, that sounds similar, right? But no, summon a devastating Bone Storm that rains down from the sky. Sounds similar to what we had before with the Bone Blizzard, but this one is even cooler, okay? With colossal bone shards causing immense bleeding damage. But the Deepening, the advanced version, Ossuary Obliteration, elevates Necrotic Bone Storm, creating a spectral army of skeletal warriors from the bone shards that join the Necromancer in combat for a duration. Now you do the Bone Storm that rains down, and then you have the Thrower skill that boosts the durability and duration of your minions and their strength and gives them bonus ability and elemental damage. Cool. Now, Fragmented Havoc increases the number and speed of bone shards raining down during Necrotic Bone Storm, intensifying its damage output and also making more minions, as I understand. And then Bonefield Dominion transforms Necrotic Bone Storm into a lingering field of bone fragments upon expiration, damaging enemies who enter the area and summoning temporary skeletal guardians to assist the Necromancer. So as the Necrotic Bone Storm dies down, there's also field staying that then makes even more skeletal guardians that you can then also boost with your abilities, which then leads us to Ethereal Apotheosis. Yes, I had him rewrite the first skill because it wasn't good. Ascend to a celestial state, calling forth an ethereal legion that materializes as powerful spectral beings. These entities unleash devastating attacks on all enemies within a vast radius. Celestial Convergence elevates Ethereal Apotheosis, allowing the summoned Ethereal Legion to periodically unleash waves of celestial energy that devastate foes within the affected area. Now, Spectral Dominion empowers this skill to control and direct the attacks of the summoned Ethereal Legion, focusing their assault on specific enemies. So you can kind of cast the ability, and then I think you can just recast it during the duration, put your minions to go somewhere. Kind of cool. Or Ethereal Uprising. Upon expiration of Ethereal Apotheosis, the celestial entities explode, releasing a shockwave of ethereal energy that damages and weakens nearby enemies, reducing their defense for duration. Now, I'd rather like recast the ability multiple times and just have them like boom, boom, target things down. Finally, we're at the key passives, and key passives are meant to drive vital synergies for unique interactions. That's how they're listed in Diablo 4. For blood, we have Sanguine Infusion. Whenever the Necromancer defeats an enemy afflicted with bleeding, a surge of blood essence erupts, temporarily increasing the Necromancer's maximum health and granting a brief boost in damage output. Yeah. Yeah, please. Darkness Umbral Resurgence. Upon casting a darkness-themed ability that damages enemies, there's a chance for the Necro to briefly fade into the shadows, gaining increased evasion and critical hit chance for a short duration, making you like a real shadow Necro, an evasive shadow Necro that can't be hit or targeted. With the bone theme being ossifized manifestation, whenever bone fragments or skeletal constructs are summoned by the Necromancer's abilities, a protective bone shield forms around the Necro, absorbing incoming damage for a limited time. Which means you can be very aggressive with bone, but at the same time you have a defense that builds up with your ultimate abilities, giving you then a chance to like get those skeletal constructs running with your basic skills and stuff. Or Ethereal Echoes from the summoning theme. When a summoned minion or spectral entity deals critical damage, a spectral echo is released, mimicking the attack to strike another nearby enemy with reduced potency, but stacking up for multiple echoes. Wait, does that mean if the echo also crits, then there's another echo and then... Dude. So this is the summoning theme Echo Barrage. Now, obviously, some of this stuff is plenty broken, like quite crazy. Realistically, some of these also sound pretty good and doable. And let's be fair, that key passive is better than anything Callan's Addict has to offer. If you replace Callan's Addicts through this straight away, it would be fantastic. But if ChatGPT can do something so easy and give quite some inspiration to make something that sounds even better and that works partially better together than what we have already, what's Blizzard doing? Now, I don't claim that I could do a better job than the current Necro designer, but I do believe that there's obvious improvement potential and obvious lack of synergy with abilities and some things not making sense that everyone sees, even my wife who doesn't play Diablo 4. Still though, Necro is my favorite class and I will continue advocating and playing it every single season. I recently also played the Diablo Immortal Necro and it was insane, or I went back to Diablo 3 to check that one out. Give it a try.